Hi, so welcome everybody to our, I think it's our fourth webinar in this series of Living the Principles. I've changed the name from Livelihood with the Principles because I suppose it can get, for some people, confusing that livelihood is about making a living from the principle. When I looked at the definition of livelihood, it was about how to obtain the necessities of life. And I suppose in my journey, I feel that having this understanding is a necessity of life, in understanding who and what we are, how we operate, is a necessity to help us in having a life of far more joy, far more peace, far more feelings of fulfillment as well, irrespective of what the situation is. And so as your host of this conversation, Janet Riney, I'll just welcome you all. And in starting these webinars, it was because, I suppose for myself, I look around a lot of the Three Principles community, particularly here in the UK, and I see a lot of how-tos. There's lots of people coming over and looking at how to utilize this with coaching, how to take this into business, how to. And I think a lot of the time I'm missing the feeling of the being. What's going on behind these metaphors? What's going on behind the principles? What is it that Cindy Banks was pointing towards? That beautiful spiritual nature of all things. And so I just wanted to start a series of conversations looking at this again, rather than having conversations in, like I said, over a bottle of Malbec late at night, just sharing and being open and saying, hey, you know, these are the conversations that we're having. We're pointing in this same direction, but we don't want to attach it to anything. It's not how to be a 10K coach or how to have a successful business. This is the being. This is just understanding what we are. And then from there, whatever the person wants to do, there's lots of other groups. But yeah, these conversations are just for us to come together, to share, to discuss, just to look and see what things look to us now. And this week I called it the essence of business, because I've known Juanita almost 2 years now. But far more recently, and in us working together, I started working with Juanita because, you know, about a year ago, I wanted to get out there and I needed to market myself more and be more visible. But what you see, it feels like Juanita and I have been on a journey in looking at marketing and looking at business, and I've just noticed and witnessed and experienced a real transformation in how she works and how she's presenting herself in work. And so I thought she'd just be a wonderful person to start to have a dialogue with tonight. So, and also she's a wonderful woman and a lovely friend as well. There are times when we could just talk about nothing, and it's okay. So, so I need to thank you for agreeing to come on and have this conversation. That's been great. But and I think just to break away from what we normally do, because normally it's like myself and the guests will have a conversation. Like I said, because there's a small group of us, let's open up and, you know, get each person to introduce themselves and what was it about the topic, or what was it about the topic about them being here today. So who would like to start?
Don't rush at once.
We're okay in the silence, though. We can just hang out here all night and just feel good.
For me, being is the first base. This is what I've been finding out. And whenever you get into a muddle or strife or problem, I know you have to come back to first base, to who you are being. And from there on, you can move forward. So that's why it appeals to me.
Great. Thanks, Birdie. Thank you. I'm looking at you, Jeff. I am.
I heard Steve. He was about to say something.
Sorry.
I'm
Oh
just
gosh,
thinking
sorry.
blindly. Something might come out in a bit, but you can go first. I'm feeling generous.
I'm not even sure why I'm here. I've never charged anybody. I've been sharing what I understand of these principles for several years. I'm on my 4th year with a meeting that's going to occur in a few hours. Probably 24 people there for 90 minutes, half of whom I'll never have seen before, and many of whom I'll never see again. And we pass a basket, and I get about a quarter a person. It covers the cost of the printing. And just this week, I heard something really helpful from Michael Neal, and he said the hardest thing that you'll ever do as a coach is to go from giving it away to charging for it. That first customer, that first client, that you asked to pay you is, and I know I'm helpful, but that charging for it thing is something. In fact, last time I talked to you, Janet, I decided that I wasn't going to be a coach. That takes the charging for it completely off the table.
Right. Nice.
Just kind of occurs to me as Jeff was saying his thing, and it made me think of another thing. I suppose that's related. It's just interesting to me, and I don't know whether it relates just to people who are into three principles or not, or this big reluctance to charge for what they do, or feeling more comfortable about giving the stuff away as opposed to having it being in a business context. I could be making this up, but it does seem to be a thing that I've noticed. And I kind of wonder, really, what is that all about?
You may have an opportunity to answer that, Steve, later on as we get on. We've been listening to somebody called, what's his name? Something Khan.
Matt Khan.
Matt Khan this week. And he was saying normally the person that's asking the question is the one that has the answer for the question. So it'd be interesting during the course of our conversation to see what comes up for you.
Okay. It's just, it just seems really bizarre to me that you can have people do a job or something that they won't necessarily like or don't have their heart and soul in it for cash, but when it comes to something that they'd really like to do, that they feel really aligned with, it seems to be this sticking point. That makes sense.
Yeah, I hear that, and it's interesting because I've been through a number of different transitions over the past 3 years, but I think it'd be really great right now just to, I don't know, ask Juanita to introduce herself, just to say a little bit more about yourself, really, and I suppose based on some of the things that you've heard as well, what Jeff said and what Steve said, if you've got any, and I know you've got experience with this, but just to make your point.
For the past 2 years, I'm Jay, I'm Juanita, and I've spent my last 2 years as a marketeer. And one of the reasons I chose this particular industry is because I'm really passionate about impact, especially social impact or things that make humans be or live better lives, you know? And one of the reasons I got into supporting coaches to get out there was to support them in that area, Steve, around this reluctance to charge. And, you know, at the time it seemed like a problem to me that I had the answer to. I know how to market. I know how to get people out there. But money is a funny old thing. And the world of business, it depends on, people had different ideas about what business was and what kind of person had a profitable business, or the kind of person that could market. And throughout my journey, I saw one or two types of people. There were people who were amazing coaches, impacting people all over the place. But the money, it wasn't that they had a reluctance so much to charge. They just didn't want to. They wanted this to be available to as many people as possible. So they didn't want to place the burden, as they saw it, on the beneficiary, on the person receiving the coaching. They just wanted to make themselves available, and they wanted to serve. And then there was people on the other end that wanted to make a livelihood from this profession, from this caring profession. And they saw it as if they were nurses and doctors, and, you know, they didn't have any thinking about it, so to speak. And, you know, they created business models, and, you know, that scaled from your Michael Neals all the way down to, you know, a coach charging £25 an hour. But what I got to see is the coach charging £25 an hour and the Michael Neals, sometimes there was no difference. The quality of coaching, the impact of the coaching, the work they were doing, it's just that one was more seen than the other. One was in mainstream, using media and marketing and the tools that we have available to us through technology to share their market. And other people were just happy doing what they were doing, happy being what they were being. What I've got to see over the past 2 years is that just because you have seen this and you want to share it, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where your income will come from. And a lot of the time we get stuck in action or in movement because I don't know how to make this a business. But nobody's really asked the question, well, does it have to be a business? Do I have to earn my money, my livelihood, from sharing this understanding? Other people have made the choice to, and other people haven't. And over the past 2 years, I've started to see that there's no wrong or right or any difference in it. It's whatever feels right to the individual, and whatever feels good for your soul, do that, you know? And there's, you know, we can say, well, we could get this out there, you know, this whole concept of out there. Let's share this, let's impact people, let's tell the whole world about what's going on and how they work. But what I've got to really see with this understanding is that everybody's okay. Nobody needs fixing. And it's who we're being. And what I mean by that is I know that I have this understanding, and it's beautiful, and it's totally transformed my life. But I know that when I got to the point where I wanted to share it and commercialize it, I just couldn't do it. Not because I thought it was good or bad or ugly. I just wanted this to be who I was, because that's who I am. The principles of who I am, it's how I work. So but in seeing that, I found other ways to create income, other ways to create livelihood that didn't involve me selling it, you know? And I think the problem is we think it should look a certain way. We think it looks like a coaching practice, Well, I had a client who wanted to be a coach, and we spent a year planning campaigns, email automation, all of that sort of stuff. But she was a nurse. She was a sister on a ward. And halfway through, I think 11 months into it, she says, I don't want to be a coach. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse. I want to care for people. And I want them to see who they really are. And I do that by caring for people in a hospital bed. You know, and she went on and she's partnered with all the private GPs, and she's doing all kind of innovative work in the NHS now, underpinned by the principles. Is her label a coach? Well, no. But she's found a way that makes it work for her. She's found a way that she can come from who she is. And in that space of possibility, she's created a role for herself in the NHS that she probably wouldn't have if she didn't come across the principles. So what I've got to see over the past 2 years is we think, I've had this insight. I need to become a coach and share it with everybody. And I think some of that reluctance may actually be people who aren't coaches. And nothing's wrong with that. You know, people who have seen this and go, you know what, I want to share this. Tomorrow I'm really excited. I'm going to the Amy Winehouse Foundation, and it's a foundation that supports young people who have been facing addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, or mental health, or anorexia and bulimia. And my work has carried me there to work with them. But if I had got stuck in how my business should look and what it should look like, I probably wouldn't have seen that opportunity. But it's a way that I get to be me. I get to share what I'm seeing, and by golly, fingers crossed, impact some young people and help them see the world a bit differently. So to me, business is love for me. To other people, it looks like cash flow and profit and loss and operations and sales and marketing. But for me, it's been, what is it I want to do? How is it I want to show up? And where are the opportunities for me to do that? And I think if we ask that question, then business doesn't look so complicated. It may very well be that I don't want to charge for that. I'm just going to be the principles, and boy, whoever sees it, sees it. He that has an ear to hear, let him hear. Or it may be, you know what, I want to be a coach. And if that's the case, I think even from this place, you'll create a business on your own terms. You'll create it in a way that feels right for you. So I don't know if I answered the question, or if there was a question in the first place, actually. But what I'm getting to see is if we can let go of what it should look like, the possibilities are endless. And I think what we're a little bit guilty of is saying, let's build your coaching practice. Well, is that what you want to do? Do you want to build a coaching practice, or do you just want to share this? Because there's a difference. So we do what we want to do. But sometimes we do stuff because we think we should do it. And letting go of what it should look like allows us the freedom to, like I've got tomorrow, to go to Amy Winehouse Foundation and sit with a group of young people and share the principles. Now, I didn't put in a proposal, I'm coming to share the principles. That's not in the proposal. I went and met with the program developers. They shared that they wanted to do something called Beyond Recovery, which is an alternative to 12 steps. Now, how cool is that? I get to sit on a program that possibly looks like an alternative to 12 steps or in a complement to 12 steps. Could I have planned that? Could I have strategized that? Could I have done that through charging? I don't think so. So for me, it was letting go of what my business should look like, the labels that come with the word business, and actually saying, well, how do I want to show up? How do I want to be? And from that place, create something, and livelihood kind of follows that, because it's natural. Once you're making an impact, or once you step out and take action, livelihood can come from anywhere. You could have a day job and impact the whole workplace. This concept of us having to leave our jobs or leave what we're doing and take the missionary road of the principles, I don't know how true that is. You know, we were people before. So what does the person want to do now? Now we know what we know. How is the world different? Because it's our world that's different. It's our world that's different. And we want to share that with others. So letting go of what that should look like is the first step to making that a reality.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Jay. And it's interesting because what you said last year, what happened was, not only was it letting go of what the business should look like, it was letting go of what I believed and what I thought. I didn't realize I had so much thinking about sales, about marketing, about charging beforehand. That's why I hadn't spoken to anybody about marketing. But during these last 12 months, what I've seen is how much thinking I have about myself, how much thinking I have about myself, about what a coach should be, what a coach should charge, how I position myself. So as much as that's the language of business, it was about me, Janet, the individual, me, Janet, the person. And what's happened in the last 6 months to me is that in seeing that is just all me made up. And the question I've been asking myself recently is if I were not Janet, what would I do? And what's happened as a result of that is all of the stuff that I thought business was, all of the stuff that I thought I had to be in business has fallen away. And like I said, when I was on the Camino with Linda Ramos, what came very clearly to me was Janet, just talk about it. And in hearing that, all of the stuff about the business, what it should look like, what the product should look like, all of that fell away. And so what I've started doing, and these webinars are as a result of that, just to keep talking about it. Now, because I'm used to putting programs together, or I've done one-to-one coaching with people and I've charged, what's happened is that if people have come to me and I've spoken to them and they say, oh, well, do you take on clients? I go, yeah, I do. I do one-to-one work. That's what I like to do. And you can either have a set of sessions or we can spend a couple of days together, but whatever works for you. And whereas in the past it felt like selling, this was, I'm going in to listen to how this can become a client. How, listen for, I know they've got an issue, they're coming to me with an issue. How can I make them a client? How can I turn this into a sale? What's happened is that I'm talking to them now, and then if they're listening, and I truly know and believe that this can benefit and help them, I'll say, well, what are you doing now? What things are you doing right now to help you to see this more clearly? And, they can say they're reading some books or this, that, and the other. I'm saying that's great, that's brilliant, and you can continue and you can have amazing insights with that. And also when you're working with a person, that can help you along that journey as well, but that's completely your choice. So the way I see it now is like I just put all the options on the table because I don't have any attachment to any of it anymore. Whether I sell it or not, at least I'm not leaving that person wondering, could I have worked with them? Was there a way? What happens next? And so I suppose that's what I've seen more of recently, is that I have a lot less of me on my mind. I have a lot less of what I think on my mind, and I just give it all in that moment. And I'm curious to know how they're going to continue on their journey, and if the conversation I've had with them is beneficial and they want to have more conversations with me, I offer that as well, because I don't have any attachment to the outcome. Now, as Jay said, it's like at one point this was my business, and so I had to charge for it. It felt like I had no choice and I had no option. And it's interesting because what you believe, you see, that's what comes to pass. And so I've had clients where I've charged them $4 or $5 grand for immersions and coaching, and they've paid it because that's what I've said and that's what they could do, and they could pay in installments. And there are people who I've worked with for free because they just didn't have it, or it was just on my heart to work with them. So again, it's in me not setting a one-size-fits-all, in me not taking myself so seriously about what business should look like. I'm able to just have a conversation with no pressure, with no expectation, with no outcome. And if it feels right in the moment, I can offer a program. And again, it's that intake. What are you doing? How are you being? How are things going to be for you? Where's your support going to be? Because I want to make sure that you've got some support. So if books and CDs are doing it for you, that's great. The fact that you come to speak to me, it means that maybe not so much. How can I support you? How can I help you? And in that way, because also another thing I remember in speaking with Linda Ramus, I remember saying, well, Linda, you know, people are saying that we shouldn't charge to teach the principles and share the principles. And she goes, Janet, they're not paying for the principles. They're paying for a workshop, or they're paying for your skill set. They're paying for your expertise. They're paying for you to be able to guide them somewhere. They're not paying for the principles. That makes complete. She's amazing. I love Linda. She's going to be one of the guests on here. But it's for me, in letting go of what I think and I believe, because it's seeing that more clearly for myself. It's all made up. Why on earth would I take myself seriously in any aspect of myself? Any aspect. And the freedom that comes with that is just to be able to play and to enjoy.
As Stephen and we lost Steve, and as Jay was talking, for me, you and I've talked about love just is a manifestation of who we are, and for me, sharing the principles is also a manifestation. It's just what I will do. With anybody who's likely to listen, and it's not like I feel like I have something for sale. I don't have to convince anybody of anything, but every other thing that I have to do deliberately in order to generate a business from this comes with a mercenary intent. It's
hardly surprising you're not charging.
It is no longer a manifestation of getting out of my own way. It's actually having to decide that I notice you have file cabinets behind you. You are apparently keeping track of records. That implies paper. And now we're talking about forms and PayPal accounts with business names. And all of that comes with like I said, with a mercenary intent. The one thing that I do absolutely love, the idea, Jay, that you're showing this to a foundation. The idea that there might be, and my background is in addiction.
Oh, cool.
From the other side. And to be honest, if I hadn't run across Sid, I'd be dead now.
Wow.
And so I am honestly humbled but I believe that the understanding is discoverable. We each have it within inside of ourselves. I've always been a little uncomfortable with the idea of wisdom for sale. Get yours today. On the other hand, I am well aware of the affect that I often have on people just being in their presence. And I guess a part of a solution for me would be to spend more time in people's presence instead of sitting in this chair. But I like the idea of being able to go to small enterprises and being able to actually improve their bottom line and the entire corporate culture. That would, I'd have died and gone to heaven, and I guess it doesn't matter, but I spent 15 years pitching products at shows like state fairs, county fairs, home shows, sports shows, that kind of thing, where I was talking to crowds of up to 100 people who hadn't paid to see me and were actually blocking the aisles in order to listen. So it's I have a gift of being able to communicate. I did that for 15 years, and now I'm starting my 4th year on a Wednesday night meeting, and my 3rd year on a on a Sunday night meeting. Those are both local, and Bertie, I think, has been on some of our Monday night meetings when it was very late at night, and those happen right here in Zoom, and we're starting our 3rd year on those.
I mean, for me, I had this, I mean, Jan's seen the whole insight to kind of fruition thing, and I was like, well, what I do is love people. That's what I do. That's my why. Like, what do you do? I love people. So then I started to think, well, how can I love people? And then I thought, oh, I want to work with, you know, people who couldn't probably afford coaching. Oh, darn. How do I make money doing that? Oh, well, okay, wrong question. What would I love to do? So I was like, I'd love to love people and share and just be my usual wacky kooky self. And somehow in that translation, in that communication, I could be impactful. I could help make somebody smile. And stuff started, the minute I opened up to that, somebody who had actually been coaching pro bono, a client called Joanna, and she was anorexic, bulimic, addicted to drugs and everything, in and out of the Priory. And I met her at an event, and she just said, I'm so tired. I keep coming to these events to fix myself. And I was kind of like, well, maybe that's because you don't need fixing. And we just kicked off, and she spoke to me twice a month. And what happened is that she got to volunteer with the Amy Winehouse Foundation. And then as she volunteered she went there for support, and then she started to volunteer. And then she started to run a group, and her group had the most record non-relapses that they've had in the 5 years the foundation's been set up. That let the CEO go, well, what's going on over there?
Yeah, what is she doing?
What's she doing? You know, the other groups are doing good, but this group's like soaring. And what Joe said is, oh, I'm just sharing what my coach shares with me. He was like, who's your coach? Now, you know, and that's how I ended up sitting down in front of them and now in a position to be a paid position at that, to develop a program. Because he wants to know, well, what's that stuff made of? You know, what is that? You know, he keeps asking me, so what's the framework? You know, and I'm like, there isn't one. So we'll get over that. But we'll get over that. But what I got to see is, if I had thinking about free work, it would have never led to that opportunity. Joe would have done whatever Joe would have done, and I wouldn't have this amazing opportunity, which is happening tomorrow. Yay! So I'm really excited about it. So it's kind of following your nose. And while I was sort of supporting Joe for free, I was doing digital marketing. I don't do it anymore, but that's what I was doing to create an income. So it had nothing to do with the principles. I had coaches that who were principal coaches who worked with me because I had the understanding. So they felt like that there was a connection on that level. But I wasn't coaching. I wasn't sharing the principles. I was working out marketing strategies and campaigns. But I didn't realize, by just letting things be as they were, that it was leading me to the opportunity for me to re-express myself, a full expression of myself, an opportunity to be paid for something I wanted to do. And it wasn't necessarily coming from the beneficiaries. It's coming from an organization that already has the money to pay me. So it's kind of like, I call it following my nose. The one thing I know in my being journey is you don't bloody know what's happening next. And I think that's the thing that drives me crazy half the time. Like, I don't know until I know. And I've seen that journey take me to a load of opportunities. And then the Amy Winehouse referred me to someone else, a housing association, and it's just started to unfold. But I couldn't have planned it. No marketeer or strategist could have sat with me and said, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to coach someone pro bono. They're going to be amazing. And someone else is going to see they're amazing. And it wouldn't have happened. So, but that was all business. That's a business meeting tomorrow, but I call it a love meeting because I'm just like, yeah, I get to love people. And that's where I'm coming from. Yeah, I'm going to talk, costs. Yeah, I'm going to talk about, well, what is it that you need? Yeah, I'm going to have all those kind of conversations as a consultant. But the place I'm coming from is like, this is going to be fun versus how do I strategize and earn income? It's a completely different place, And Jeff, you've got all those communication skills. Well, then maybe that's where the income comes from. Supporting smaller enterprises, walking them through the showcasing process and what makes a great stand and how to do a great pitch and all of that sort of stuff. It might come from there and you still serve the people you serve.
This is so different from that. That was extremely cognitive, highly choreographed, and basically, once I'd worked with the product for a few shows, the words kind of didn't change from one demonstration to the next. And that's not quite true because once I'd worked with the product long enough, I had lots of different pieces of different ones that I could grab from. But I don't even walk into any place hoping to share the principles with a 3x5 card bullet list. They're just. How can I presuppose that I know what somebody needs to hear before I get there? And I hear that all through the principles is that you respond in real time to the real situation. I've heard some people that call themselves coaches that are obviously steering a conversation with an agenda towards a convince, and it just doesn't. It may work for their clients. It doesn't work for me watching it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because what comes to me, Jeff, and like you said about the skill set that you have, and I think it goes beyond that. It's the fact that you communicate easily with people. The methodology and how you do it is one thing, but there's an underlying thing for me. What I'm hearing is that you communicate really easily with people, and so whether you were in sales and it was a cognitive prescribed thing, or whether it's when you're working with the person and you're talking about these principles, you're sharing love with people. At the heart of it, it's I say it's the communication, but it's where it's coming from. Because the thing that keeps coming up to me is like, why is it different? Why is it different in your mind, Jeff? It's you sharing your love. It's you sharing it however you want to share it. And it's not, like you said, not the way in which a person shares it and steers a conversation. Like you said, I've seen lots of coaches think, okay, then here's the problem and amplify it. And what would it be like if you didn't work with me? And so you need to work with me. That really repulses me. But where I'm at, what I see is like, this is a person that's hurting. This is a person that's hurting and they've tried everything and it's not working for them. And I do know that if they have an understanding of this, it can alleviate some of that pain.
And Steve Chandler, I've heard him say it's not about going out and getting clients. It's not even as referrals. It's about who can I be useful to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all of that stuff. In the past you'd call it reframing, but at the end of the day, I hate to see a person in pain. That's what motivates me. It's like, oh my goodness, I know if they even saw a glimpse of this, it could really go a long way to alleviating that. Let me offer this to them. Now it's not like I'm selling, it's like this is what I do. If you want help with this, then I'm here. And there are some people that turn around and say, yes, Janet, but, and I'm like, you know what, it's fine. You know where I am. I'm not going anywhere. I've been consistent the past 6 years for myself. I'm not going anywhere. So when you're ready, I'll still be here. And it's that. And I suppose for me, what I've realized is that if I'm saying that enough times to enough people, somebody may turn around and say yes at some point. And it's not that numbers game of sales and let me make 100 calls and then the 100th one will be the yes. It's these people are in pain and they don't have this understanding, and maybe it can help. And if they want it, at least they know where to come. If they don't, that's fine, because they know where else to go as well. It really is their choice. And again, that's the thing. I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm not doing the follow-up sales call or do this, that, and the other. It's like, here I am. When you're ready, I'll still be here. And leave it like that. But it's the love that prompts me to offer that, because if they don't know where else to go, and they don't end up at our door by accident, they don't end up after speaking to us by accident. They're looking for a solution, and they happen across you or me or Jay or anybody on this call. And if we can, and we feel that we can help them, let's offer them something. So that's where I'm at with it right now. It's not the numbers, it's not the turnover, it's not a lifestyle business and how much do I have to make this month. It's if I can help you, here I am, and I want to help you. So yeah, and I suppose I started off by saying we can make things seem so different and separate because of the meaning that we attach to certain things. And when I let that go, when I know it's all love, the person in front of me is me. They are me. They're a reflection of me. It's just that in this moment, they just can't see what I see. Can I help them? Can I help them to have a greater experience of themselves? That's it. That's it.
I guess for me, it just doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a this or that. It can just be what it is. You can just do it. And somehow it works out to be a business. And I think sometimes there's some bits that sometimes we avoid stuff because maybe there's a bit of skill set or something that, we need to upgrade, to kind of work out and learn and navigate new stuff. But that's just like what I call logistics. It's like, okay, I'm no good at numbers. I'm going to get an accountant to sort out all that stuff. Or, you can put all that stuff away. But to be there, getting out there to me is just being there. What makes sense right now, and do that. And if that means no action, then no action, and have no judgment about it either way. If that means going to talk to local charities or local small businesses and asking that question, Jeff, like, what's going on for you, and seeing if there's somewhere that you'd want to help or not help. There's no right or wrong way. It's just our thinking that makes it so. I love that quote from Shakespeare. But for our thinking and the meaning we give things, like business, like enterprise, like workshop, the label coach, what if it wasn't what you thought it was? What if it was you? And that means you can display that, express that, show that in any way you want to. What would you do then? That is the essence of business. It's not the form. it's whatever you want to create. If that looks like non-paying clients, that's non-paying clients. If that looks like a practice full of clients, then it's a practice full of clients. If it looks like hanging out with some teenagers and asking why adults make things so complicated, like for me, that's what it is. It will be what it wants to be, but can you love it anyway? Because in that, it can unfold, and you can see what it needs to be when you need to know. And to me, that's the essence of business. Business is you expressed in another form. That's what business means to me.
Steve, I can't see. I was just wondering if during the course of these conversations, or what you've heard is, is there an answer to your question? Have you seen anything?
You may have noticed or not, but I think I was out of it for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So there's some bits obviously I've missed. But while you were talking, something just kind of like popped into my head. Donald Trump.
Mm.
It just occurred to me, for some people, they'll probably have this idea in their head: if they're doing business, they're going to have to do it business will be kind of something that's separate from the way that they want to share their thing is. So they'll kind of think, if I'm in business, I'll have to be this hard-nosed kind of person who's going to be crushing everything that's before them. And that's what makes a good business person, which is made up, really, isn't it? It's just too much thinking about business, looking at an example of business and forgetting that there's potentially 7 billion other ways of looking at business.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what came up into my head.
Cool. 7 billion possibilities.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
If I might, I'm just sitting here thinking about that business that I had for 15 years. I was sometimes an agent of somebody else's, and sometimes I was actually buying and selling the products that I was. But I realized when I started doing that, I didn't even have a truck that would get me from one show to the next. So the first thing I did is I bought a truck, and after a while of doing that, I was sitting on handfuls of cash, and I realized I needed a bank account. So I went ahead and got one of those. And then after about 6 months, a manufacturer had seen me work and wondered if I'd work with his stuff. And so now I'm buying and selling stuff. And I didn't even have a typewriter. I didn't know how to type. And so instead of buying a used IBM Selectric, I bought a 286 computer. This was back in 80-something. And I didn't know what a spreadsheet was, separate from a database, separate from a word processor. And after about 3 weeks of playing with a spreadsheet, I figured out that I couldn't afford, with all the money I'd collected, I owed so much of it, I couldn't afford the computer. But the point is that I solved each of those issues as they presented themselves, instead of here now I'm kind of feeling like, well, I got to have the paperwork together, and I got to be able to go ahead and write out an invoice, and I need PayPal, and I need a DBA, and all I need to do is talk to people.
Bingo.
That's it.
Bingo.
and not turn them all on to Janet.
She's coming back to you. When I listened, I went, no, that's not my client. That's not my client.
I told her, you say I love you for the same reason I say I love you. And she apparently likes hearing. She said that she's considering joining us. I think he only got about another 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, she's in the group now, but having had having had this conversation, we'll have another conversation, Jeff, afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and she, or you and I?
You and I.
You're going in the naughty room, Jay.
Jeff's never in the naughty room, ever. But yeah, fabulous. Well, as Jeff said, thank you for keeping on the time. Just got a couple of minutes left. Birdie, is there anything that you want to say?
No, it just was coming up to me as you were talking then that really doing what Sid Banks said, just go out and live your life. And these opportunities just keep happening. And as Juanita was saying, I've heard so many coaches saying, I wanted a bit business, I wanted a coaching practice, I wanted this, I wanted that. And when they stopped trying, I went back to their old jobs or went to do something completely different, opportunities came their way. And as you say again, just following the breadcrumbs. You just don't know what's happening from moment to moment. So just following. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Birdie. So, Jay, any parting words of wisdom that you want to leave us with? And also what's coming up for you that you want to share, want to talk about? No.
Well, what's coming up for me, over the next 12 months, I'm launching something called the Love Project. And the Love Project is there to help anything from a fair trade farmer all the way to people that create social enterprises or social impact and are having an impact on the planet we live on. And I know for many, and I really dislike this term, heart-centered entrepreneurs. It really does my head in. But it's a great description of anyone that, I put on my website the other day, I have 3 conditions for the people I work with. So is there love present? I don't think we should create anything without it. Is it sustainable? Can we build something to last, something that's going to last beyond what we're doing? And, will it be fun? So I'm looking at a new way of doing business. I'm looking at how can people contribute? How can people collaborate? I see a lot of solo entrepreneurs by themselves in a cupboard somewhere, really trying to get out there. When there's 3 people on the block that kind of do the same thing, why are we not collaborating? Why are we not looking at how we can be impactful together? So my work over the next 12 months is all about social impact. It's all about how do I love more? And how can I help people who are already loving or already wanting to love? How do I help them reach a wider audience and get out there? So, look out for that. There'll be a range of different love projects, alcohol and addiction programs, all the way up to a fair trade farmer, which came in at 6 o'clock from another referral. So, all the way in Gambia, Jan.
Nice.
So, looking at the different opportunities. I'm a marketeer, from previous history. So I'm looking at crowdfunding, venture capitalism. How can we get income in? Why does it have to be get clients? Why can't we get income from different ways, working with different people, different associations? How can what we're already doing tie into someone else's awesome work? Like my work has with the Amy Winehouse Foundation. So that's what I'm going to be up to over the next 12 months. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm everywhere. So, find me on my website, JuanitaJaySinclair.com, and follow the adventure, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I've got Hawaii in October. That's about as far as I know. So, I'll be up to loving the planet. And if you fancy seeing what I'm up to on my adventure, or you've got a project that's all about love, then please, I'd love to know.
Brilliant.
I'd love to know.
Jay, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the conversation. And thank all of you as well for contributing and this being exactly what I want it to be. It's all coming together and just talking about these different things. Next week, I have Dave Ellery coming on, looking at I'm calling it the essence of nature. Dave Ellery is a forest tree surgeon by trade, but the way in which he sees the principle play out in nature is just wonderful to me. I don't hear anybody else speak about the principles the way I hear Dave speaks about it and how he sees nature. So 7:30 next Wednesday, let's be here and sharing with Dave. So everybody, thank you so much. Jeff, do you have to shoot off, or can you stay on here for a bit?
Yeah, I told somebody that I would be on the phone until 2:30, and if she calls, I kind of have to jump onto that, but that's up to her.
Okay. Well, if I can say goodbye to all of the rest of you, and then I can start recording as well. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
See you next week.
I love you.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Love
Take care.
everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.